So y'all, I just learned through the grapevine that a lot of music artists are basically getting signed to these labels, and the labels will give them loans in order to kickstart their career, whatever they agree to, millions, thousands, whatever it is, and then the artist works to pay off that loan. And then also another reality is that people who sign to labels are typically fame hungry as well, money and fame hungry. So the label is paying them in exposure. They're paid in getting that commercial. They're paid in walking on the red carpet or being invited to certain events because they really want to be known that bad. You know what I mean? And then not only this, but also these loans that they're giving, and again, not all artists, but the loans that these artists are given are being, what is it called? Interest is being collected on these loans, y'all. Interest is being collected on these loans. So these artists are basically working and making albums and going on tour to pay these loans back. And I don't know how the music industry works completely, so don't quote me, but like, I understand now. And I used to always wonder, like, what does it mean to sell your soul? What does it mean to sell your soul? It means once your ass sign that label deal so that you can get the fame and the money alongside using your gift is basically now in their control. If you ever decide, I don't want to do music anymore, I don't want to be in this industry anymore because I'm exposed to things that I never thought I would see, guess what? You got a $10 million loan to pay back to these people. And they don't play about their money. They will get you out of here. Oh, you don't want to do music no more? And that's what we hired you for? That's what you signed the label to do? You're about to be out of here. And then also, people don't realize at any time, if you lose your momentum, you're just not popping like that no more, or if, you don't want to rap or sing about the same things because when you were 20, you rapped about booty and money and drugs, and now you're 30 and you're like, okay, like something got to change. If you really want to sing or rap about something different, like that's going to affect your sales. That's going to affect how quickly you can pay back these loans. But basically, they have you in a lifetime deal ultimately. Like, it's the same way Jay-Z told Rihanna that she's either going to sign that deal or she's going to leave out that building from that window, because literally they will threaten your life, not only your life, but like the people close to you. They will sacrifice the people around you if you think they're a joke. Humiliation rituals, you did something that offended them, you're playing on their top, and they're like, oh, we're going to show you. Humiliate her. She's already, or him or her, they're already stuck in a $10 million, $15 million contract with us because they wanted money and fame so damn bad. Okay, let's show them.
You are a music artist or you know a music artist. This message is extremely important. When you sign a record contract with a record company, depending on the type of deal that you structure, they own your likeness and a percentage of everything that you do. Why is that important? Because record companies also purchase life insurance on the artist. It's called key person insurance. What this does is it provides the record company, or any other business for that matter, with a sum of money, also known as a death benefit, in the event that you pass away. Now here's the thing. Written in these contracts is subtle legal jargon that cuts your family and your estate out of the life insurance contract. This is why it is extremely important for anyone who is in the recording industry to have their own life insurance policy. We've seen it happen with plenty of rappers. They pass away, their family gets
Think about this for a moment. When an artist signs his name on the dotted line to a record company, the record company will in many cases own all of the masters for the songs recorded under that contract. And when an artist signs to a major label, it's safe to say that their death is in many ways factored into the initial investment. And in many ways, after an artist has peaked in popularity, there becomes an awkward point in their career where the artist is worth more to them dead than alive.
Mad at him due to the business that he did.
Yeah.
They and I can't even say mad, is that they didn't have a part of it. Let's be real. I'm gonna say it out there straight for everybody listening. My uncle didn't die. He was murdered. I feel the same thing about Prince. We're losing a lot of stars because you have to remember, these are basically insurance policies. When he dies, whatever was owned by the company reverts back. We're not talking about $100,000. We're not talking about $1 million. We're talking about billions of dollars. Notice that when my uncle dies, why do you hear all his music? Why is there a Motown cartoon out now? Okay, well, obviously when my uncle was alive, he wasn't giving the rights to anybody. But when he dies, all of a sudden,
there is no more money in making music. That's facts. I saw Master P's interview, and I will verify that is absolutely true. Okay? I had always said if I ever went back to making music, it would be as a hobby. I wouldn't do it as a means to feed my family because there's no more money in it. All right? They want you to rely on streams. That's why when you make it, or you see these people that go viral, tens of millions of views, and then you log in and they still living a regular life where they get up here and then they broke because they're not teaching artists. They're more focused on you going viral. They're not focused on you creating good music. Because if you listen to a lot of the music today, it's be like, what is this? It's not anything special. That's because they want to see what's more popular, and that's not fair. You'll have two artists on a label. This one is more popular than this one. They're going to push this one, and this one who might make good music is going to get dropped because that's not what people want to hear. Okay? I see so many artists dumping their life savings into music and they're not getting recognized because it's a popularity contest. Music is a popularity contest. Whether you make rap, reggae, pop, country, whatever, it's all a popularity contest, and it's not something you do for longevity. It's for the moment. So if you do get lucky enough to get signed, get all the money you can, get your foot in the door, and then transition into being a business artist, or, put your hands in other things, because the music is not going to get you paid. That's just the bottom line. It's kind of like, y'all remember in the early 2000s with bootlegging and everything, that hurt a lot of artists' pockets. That's what made a lot of the ones from the 90s see what else they could do to make music, because back then it was like CDs and stuff like that, online streaming, and now streaming is legal. They want you to make your money from that. People ain't doing that. So that's that. But if you do still want to make music, something that is gate kept, the money, the millions of dollars is in EDM, because that's the most marketable. What is that? That's that music, okay? Because gangster rap, you can't play that everywhere. Regular rap, you can't play that everywhere. Pop music with a couple of cuss words or vulgar lines, you can't play that everywhere. Some country music, can't play that everywhere. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Something that nobody will disagree on is EDM music. That you grab the microphone and pop in and say, whatever you're going to come up with, that's the millions of dollars. Just thought I'd let y'all know that, because I don't see nobody talking about it. So I would know. All my homeboys make music, so I can tell you what work and, what's hot and what's going on with the music side of things. Do music for fun.
This is the beginning of the end of the music industry as we know it. Not even just the music industry, just art in general. UMG, who's the world's leading music company, just partnered with an AI company to make AI-assisted music. Now, in the article, it talks about how right now, this is just going to be made for functional music, which is like passive listening experience, like stuff for sleeping, white noise, meditation, stuff like that. But we know it's not going to stay there. That's just a way to have it discreetly enter the industry. But there's a lot of examples where we can clearly see that this AI stuff is here to stay, but it doesn't have to be. We see the Writers Guild in Hollywood on strike right now, and part of that is for a better wage, but also it's to ban AI from writing scripts and everything. I have no idea how union forming works, but the music industry, writers, artists, producers, manager, everybody needs to somehow get together to stop AI from taking over the music industry. Because even though people think right now that you need the human element for art to be great, it's not really that true. And we've seen that where that person made that Drake song and the Weeknd song, and it had hundreds of thousands of streams and people liked it, and it was just made completely by AI. AI will get good enough to just pump out songs, and it'll be smart enough to know the algorithm for these companies just have commercial hit after commercial hit after commercial hit. It has got to be stopped.
Never has. talent is too easy to find.
Yeah.
And I know that depresses a lot of you. And when people come to me, they always come to me like, yo, this dude is so talented. It just tells me you don't understand the music industry. It tells me you're green when you say that, because it's not about talent. It's never been about talent. Master P is not the most talented rapper in the world. Blueface is not the most talented rapper in the world. It's about success. It's a business. It's about the story. It's about the charisma. It's about who you are. It's about what people think of you.
Relatability.
Whether people like you. It's about relatability, connection, engagement. It's about so much more.
Rappers, any more rappers that had messages in their
No
music.
positivity.
It was all to be gangster rap music that they promoted and put out. The first emotion I felt was shocked, because I was definitely taken back by this, just knowing the level of evil that's involved. The second emotion I felt was anger. Anger because it's not enough for them to exploit our culture and make all the money off of it. Because let's keep it real, the industry has never been favorable towards the artist. Never. But they're going to go beyond the artist to get the artist to influence and lure in the consumer, which they knew at the time were mainly minorities.
Yep.
In other words, keep promoting gangster rap so that the youngsters will be influenced by them, will incite them to want to act like them, and it's a very good chance they'll end up in their prison.
Yeah.
So they're getting paid twice. They're getting paid from the artists they signing, and then they're getting paid from the people that these artists influence that goes to prison. They make a secret meeting that changed rap music and destroyed a generation.
Damn.
So it says, hello. After more than 20 years, I finally decided to tell the world what I witnessed in 1991, which I believe was one of the biggest turning points in popular music and ultimately American society. I have struggled for a long time weighing the pros and cons of making my story public, as I was reluctant to implicate the individuals who were present that day. So I've simply decided to leave out the names and all the details that may risk my personal well-being and that of those who were, like me, dragged into something they weren't ready for.
Damn.
Hold on, let me
So we gonna tell the story.
we gonna tell the story. We ain't scared.
You know what I'm saying? What they gonna do?
They after us, not just playing.
Look, that black man.
So look, so he says, between the late 80s and early 90s, I was what you may call a decision maker with one of the more established companies in the music industry. I came to Europe in the early 80s and quickly established myself in the business. The industry was different back then, since technology and media weren't accessible to people like that, like they are today. The industry had more control over the public and had the means to influence them any way it wanted.
Right.
This may explain why in early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. Rap music's new direction.
Yeah.
Little did I know we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practices ever seen.
Crazy.
So this was the meeting. The meeting was held at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people were being there.
Right.
Most of them familiar faces. Speaking of those I knew, we joked about the theme of the meeting, as many of us did not care for rap and failed to see the purpose of being invited to a private meeting to discuss the future of hip-hop.
Talk to him.
Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces who stayed to themselves and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Based on their behavior and formal appearances, they didn't seem to be from our industry. Our casual chatter was interrupted when we were asked to sign a confidentiality agreement preventing us from publicly discussing the information presented during the meeting. Needless to say, this intrigued, in some cases, disturbed many of us. The agreement was only a page long, but very clear on matters and consequences, which stated that violating the terms would result in job termination immediately. We asked several people what this meeting was about and the reason for such secrecy, but could not find anyone who had the answers for us. A few people refused to sign, and walked out. Nobody stopped him. I was tempted to follow, but curiosity got the best of me.
That's right.
A man who was part of the unfamiliar group collected all the agreements from us. So now it's going to get to the good part because the meeting about to start.
Talk to him, G.
It says, quickly after the meeting began, hold on one second.
Get your popcorn, y'all.
Popcorn, get your pistol. No, it's like,
For real, though.
quickly after this meeting began, one of the industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless like everybody else, thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name and gave no other details about his personal background. I think he was the owner of the residence, but that was never confirmed. He briefly praised all of us for the success we had achieved in our industries and congratulated us for being selected as part of this small group of decision makers. At this point, I began to feel slightly uncomfortable and the strangeness of this gathering. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement.
Damn.
He explained that the companies we worked for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability.
Hip Hop for Change, 3 major corporations, Warner Records, Universal Music Group, and Sony Music Group, control about 90% of the hip hop industry. Now here's where it gets interesting. The private prison industry in the US is also controlled by just 2 companies, CoreCivic, formerly Corrections Corporation of America, and GEO Group, which own nearly all the private prison beds in the country.
In 1987, Corrections Corporation of America, CCA, today called CoreCivic, charged $32.17 per inmate. By 1997, it charged the government 33% more. However, the company's costs only increased by about 8%. The company's revenue grew 27 times.
So how do record labels tie into this whole prison for profit situation? Well, the connection comes down to who's funding both industries. The same powerful investment firms that pump money into private prisons also have huge stakes in the music industry. So back in 2012, Corrections Corporation of America made a wild move. They reached out to 48 states with an offer to buy their prisons in exchange for a 20-year contract. However, the deal came with a bizarre condition. The states had to guarantee that at least 90% of the prison beds would stay filled for the entire contract. But how exactly were these states supposed to keep their prisons packed for 2 decades? Well, this next part is even crazier. Just 2 months after CCA's offer, an anonymous email started circulating among people in the music business, claiming that during a secret meeting in 1991, it was allegedly decided that hip-hop and rap would be used to boost profits for private prisons. According to the email, music industry reps at the meeting were told that their companies invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that their positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. These prisons were built by privately owned companies that receive funding from the government based on the number of inmates, and this meant the more inmates, the more money the government would pay for these prisons. And this is where things get real sinister. According to the email, the music executives were told they need to market music that promotes criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. And when some time passed after the meeting, the man said he started to see how rap music was changing direction. He wrote, "Rap acts that talked about politics or harmless fun were quickly fading away as gangster rap started dominating the airwaves. Only a few months had passed since the meeting, but I suspect that the ideas presented that day had been successfully implemented. It was as if the order has been given to all major label executives. The music was climbing the charts, and most companies were more than happy to capitalize on it. Each one was churning out their very own gangster rap acts on an assembly line. Everyone bought into it, consumers included. Violence and drug use became a central theme